Welcome again, everyone. Today is Saturday afternoon, the 24th. Jim and Dave, you two are on?
We are on.
We're here, Jeff.
Okay, good. We're going to make this this is going to be a public recording. We want to be on the record. It looks like some sites have been recently knocked down and out. We're going to start off talking about MSM and the truth, not the truth, and the bulk of our discussion is going to be regarding the petroyuan beginning this Monday, what we've seen to this point, and what we think we're going to see. So, David, why don't you kick this off?
All right. Hey, that's great, Bill, Jim, great to be here. Let's start at the top. It's been an interesting week. They seem to get stranger every single week. And Bill and I agreed that for this week, the topic would be mainstream media. They write the headlines. The truth does not matter. Examples of this would be the New York Times story where they are calling out Donald Trump because he made the phone call to Mr. Putin to congratulate him on his election. But he did not chastise Mr. Putin because the vote count in his favor was so high, somehow implying that the election was rigged. They went on in this article to say that the election rigging in 2016 was not addressed by Mr. Trump, nor was the poisoning of the spy that allegedly took place. Now, I am not right or left. I am not a Trump supporter or a Trump hater. I call everybody out on their individual statements, and then we could take it from there. The New York Times, for whatever reason, has to poison the water in every single article. And as a proof of that, I would like to bring to light, this is the 15-year anniversary of the Iraq War. Back in 2003, we dealt with Colin Powell telling us that the Iraq War may take 5 days, 5 weeks, but definitely not more than 5 months. This was clearly reported by the same New York Times. Judith Miller, who worked for the New York Times, wrote this big story about how yellow cake uranium was being shipped into Iraq, and she knew it. Dick Cheney told us that the Iraqis were going to erupt with joy and would be happy to see us. Donald Rumsfeld said the war will pay for itself. John Bolton, we are confident that Saddam Hussein has hidden weapons of mass destruction and production facilities in Iraq. Bolton said this in 2002. George Bush landed on the aircraft carrier shortly after there to announce that mission is accomplished. The point I'm trying to make is every statement that has been mentioned above is a complete lie. Bill, Jim, I'm not anti-American. I just have to point out things that are taking place because I don't think the public really has a connected dot mentality. Bill, let's start with you this week. I just rattled off a list of events that is pretty well known. How is it possible that the public still buys the story that MSM puts out every single day when their track record is so opposite?
Well, first off, nobody, it's like it's not important to anyone's individual life because it doesn't affect them. What happened in 2003, that was all about Saddam Hussein moving away from the dollar. It was all about him accepting euros for oil. He was deposed, we invaded, and that was all about moving away from the dollar. Same thing happened to Gaddafi. And now here we are again, coming up on Monday. The Chinese are going to do the same thing. And there's no way we can stop them. I do want to mention one of the things you were talking about, the poisoning. There, like we were talking beforehand, there's no proof of that whatsoever, and the poison that supposedly was used by the Russians to poison this double agent was from a factory that the U.S. Factory in Uzbekistan that the U.S. Took over in 1999. So I mean, none of it adds up, but the headlines are, like you said, the headlines are the headlines, and they create the narrative, and the narrative is always a lie. Jim?
We must be dumbed down. It's, we've lost everything. We've lost our patriotic heritage. We've lost our moral guidelines. Our schools have taught our kids that everything they learn from their parents is wrong. Police. I was taught if I was ever in trouble or got lost as a kid, I just would look for policemen. The whole world has turned itself upside down to a liberal cause, and I think to globalism, to a one world currency, to a singular Federal Reserve, and that the lessons that allow that to be accepted are the lessons that have changed the culture, not only of the United States, but of the entire world. This is not something by happenstance. This isn't something that just took place because of changing times and wills. This is a very well applied and very well thought out strategy for control. And somehow it's starting to come apart. I'm not so sure that it isn't coming apart from within, but it's coming apart. And that leaves a few really distinct options. One is the market in everything is a bubble. The bonds, the equities, everything you look at has been pumped up by the injection of artificial money that doesn't even exist. All this money, if you couldn't put it in a file, it wouldn't equal the bank statements. It just doesn't exist, and it's going to have to be wiped out. So when I hear this, and I know it to be true, I haven't seen a picture of the fellow and his daughter, Pullman. I haven't seen anybody in the hospital bed. But I hear that two have been poisoned. And, of course, immediately I hear the Russians did it, except when you're a double agent. Aren't there two sides that would like to get rid of you? Not just one, but no discussion of that. So what I get the feeling is we're at an inflection point in everything. And the plug is not in tight at all. You hit it with your toe, it's coming out in the bathtub. So I am extraordinarily concerned, not only of the subjects that we must go over today, but of the absolute lack of truth that we accept. And the only thing you can come to the conclusion is that over these many years, we have become soft. We don't know how to take care of ourselves. I mean, just go back to Rome. This is 5 minutes before Rome keeled over. It could be 2 minutes before we do. Sorry for the rant.
David.
Okay. Then this brings us to, and again, I'm apolitical. I dislike both parties. I think JB had one of the better pictures you posted today, Jim, and Bill, of the Republicans and the Democrats holding hands behind the couch while the conservative is curled up to the Republican. I mean, it was just a great picture because, as I said to my wife today, nothing seems to change. I mean, George Bush invaded Iraq. Clinton was there before him. Daddy Bush was there before that. Obama was there after that. Trump, before he was elected, was tweeting back in 2013, and this is an actual tweet from Donald Trump. All former Bush administration officials should have zero standing on Syria. Iraq was a waste of blood and treasures. That was September 5th, 2013. Fast forward to today or whatever day, and he appoints John Bolton, who was the head of the Iraq invasion. Does the deep state own him? Did Did he fool us all along? Did he fool, what's your thoughts here, guys? Bill, let's start with you.
Yeah, Bolton.
Well, who's you?
Bolton was a ridiculous pick. That's obviously deep state. We did have some people writing in regarding him signing the omnibus bill yesterday and saying he'd never, ever do it again. One thing that people do need to understand is it was an omnibus bill, so here's another year where the U.S. is running without an official budget. And an official budget, the president has got to appropriate the spending the way the budget is written. An omnibus bill is strictly a suggestion. So hopefully he signed that knowing that he can do the same things that Obama did and basically spend on what he wants to spend on. But as you said, David, it does look like there is some deep state connection with him appointing John Bolton. That was an eye raiser.
It's an understatement of your lifetime, though. It was a total shock to me, and a complete letdown from hoped for changes. Nothing has changed. Our future has its foundation in sand. Our markets are virtual falsehoods. Our reporting and news doesn't exist. That's all of that is not happenstance. It's purposeful. And the last thing you do in a situation like that is you pull the plug to obtain full control. And as we were saying before, is it this Monday, next Monday, a month from today? It's not a question of if. Excuse me. It really is a question of when. And that screams for protect yourself if you can. The world is mad. The markets are mad. We have no direction. You can't explain an administration that fires everybody. You can't explain a person who apparently will not listen to anybody about anything at any time. His lawyers quit. And when they quit, they said, why should we work for someone who doesn't do anything we tell them? So you really wonder whether the beating the fellow's taken in the run-up to the presidency and the absolute torture he had from the point of presidency to president, has he lost it? It's possible. Is he being controlled? Probable. And where are we headed? For a hell of an explosion. It's out of control, guys. Everything, everywhere, is out of control. And the kids marching for the guns to be taken away. Put up the picture of Hitler with the children next to him when he was taking the guns away. Okay? He played the same game. All the children around him and how they had to be protected. Nothing new, except he didn't pay him. What's new is these guys get $25 an hour. So we are in clear and present danger now. What we've warned about for years is now. Okay? It could, again, as we said before, some Monday coming very soon, the plug is coming out. And it's up to you, the listeners, what you do to make sure that or to make an effort to maintain some degree of personal freedom and some degree of lifestyle. We've done everything we could possibly do to warn you, except come out and shake you by the shoulders. Look around. Look at what's been said. Think about it. Think about past statements and activities. And you must come up with the same conclusion. It's beyond our ability to do anything for you now. You got to do it for yourself.
Hey, Jim, you mentioned these kids, these high school kids that are they're demonstrating to have their Second Amendment rights taken away.
Yes,
David and I talked earlier. Do you realize that Delta Airlines is sending from some of these kids from Florida for free. And
I'm sure. Soros is playing Delta.
Well, when the hurricane came last year, what did they do? They tripled their fares.
Tripled the cost of the fare. Okay. Does that make sense? Does that sound like maybe there's a purpose in it?
Yeah, exactly.
Does that sound like a plan or a strategy? Business doesn't work that way. When you die and the price goes up, okay, not down. There's nothing for free. There never was, and there never will be. That's not for free. It may look that way, but it's not for free.
David.
Okay. Rand Paul, and, I say I'm apolitical. I refuse to vote. I believe it's an illusion of choice. And I've gone down this road because when I had voted years and years back, I only voted for the person who told me what I wanted to hear, only to find out they got in office and did what they wanted to do anyway. But there was one person that I always wanted to run, and I would have actually went out and voted for him and would have supported him, and it was Ron Paul. That being said, his son Rand actually is a close second. As much as I dislike politicians, I do kind of like Rand. And I like the fact that he came out this week and clearly said that the deep state is alive and well. It is an unelected body of officials. There's roughly 8 people who have very little oversight. They rubber stamp whatever the deep state wants to do. And they are exerting power and influence without the public having any idea what's going on or any accountability. So to finish off geopolitics for the week, so we can move on to more pleasant things, I just want to clarify for the readers, when we talk about the deep state, it is a group of unelected officials who actually run the show no matter what president is in office. And it is our belief that, fortunately or unfortunately, they seem to have gained control again, whether they had it all along and Trump was a grand illusion or he's flip-flopped. I would think both the guys I'm talking to right now would agree that the deep state has their hands back on the control panel. Would you guys agree?
Yeah, I would agree according to the people who flew on the Whoopi flight.
Okay, so let's move this next to, we actually could go one of two ways. We can go towards, let's start with China, because China's a really pressing issue. We know what took place at the end of the week, and I had a question for Jim, because he's much smarter than I am when it comes to things like trade wars. I want to know, in a trade war, in a real war, I know I won because you're dead and I'm still alive. Or somewhere, some simple term like that. In a trade war, how do you tell a winner and a loser?
You've got to look very closely because it's the first one who blinks, okay? And there is no winner in a trade war. The idea that I'm going to control China's actions or China's going to control our actions by costing us more for goods or products or flooding the market with something they have, it was nothing more than outrageously disruptive to both. Okay? The beginning of a trade war is the beginning of a physical war. It's simply a marker in time that is of no benefit to anyone whatsoever.
I would add that restricting trade, which is really what a trade war is, restricting trade slows trade, it slows economic activity, and we're at a point in time now where debt, gross debt or debt ratios or however you want to quantify it is at all-time record highs for humanity. And if you've got huge debt and the economies are slowing, trade is slowing, it gives a lesser ability to service the debt. So I view a trade war, just go back to the 1930s with the Smoot-Hawley tariffs. Look what that did. And that's I mean, everything is lining up again, just as it has in the past. There are articles out now comparing current days to 1987. You've got a weak dollar, you've got higher interest rates, you've got tariffs being raised, you have stocks at all-time high valuation levels, you've got LIBOR rising, and to top it all off, we've got a yield curve that is almost inverted. It's very, very flat. 3-month LIBOR is, 220, 230, and you've got a 30-year bond now at 310 or 315. So an inverted yield curve going back to World War II, we have had recessions where we did not have an inverted yield curve, but we have never had an inverted yield curve and not been followed by a recession. In other words, the flattening yield curve, if it inverts, it guarantees a recession. And a recession with the amount of debt outstanding is an implosion. I mean, it's a guaranteed mathematical implosion.
I don't know if comparison to 87, Bill, is relevant. I think what's coming up now will be the ultimate comparison to anything in the future of the world. Because, as you state, never in the history of man have nations and people owed so much money with so little collateral. And if you wanted to pull a plug and you were thinking of how to do it, I'd say a trade war would be a very good idea. So we live in interesting times. We live in very dangerous times. And the voices that would call attention to this, at least on the new form of media, are being shut down one after another. You must see what the trend is. You've got to see what's happening out there. If you go on to the news stations of MSM, it's almost a comedy show. You wonder where they are. On what planet are they? With no valuations, with machines making markets that have neither greed nor fear, with everything's being set up to make Russia the bad guy. What do you think we got in mind? Okay? We have war in mind. And everything that is taking place, including the poisoned double agents that all of a sudden seem to have disappeared, is most disturbing. It's most opaque. There is no transparency. And we are not headed towards any improvements in any of those categories. This can't go on. This has no permanency to it. It is the ultimate Potemkin construction, a cardboard city. And if anybody sneezes, it's all coming down. And I think that sneeze is near.
Well, let's do the remainder of this recording talking about Monday, talking about specifically the 26th when the Petro-Yuan contract is supposed to begin.
Bill, can you repeat that? You were kind of breaking up.
Let's finish this out. Let's do the remainder of the discussion regarding this coming Monday, the 26th, which is when the Petro-Yuan begins trading.
Okay, perfect. Well, that brings us to my China question, because in regards to this trade war that we've now entered with China, I was reading an article recently, and it went on to claim China can pressure the U.S. in other areas of bilateral cooperation. For example, the Korean Peninsula issue, the Iran nuclear issue. China can also set itself against the U.S. in international organizations such as the UN. In addition, China needs to move fast to establish diplomatic ties with allies of Taiwan to further squeeze the island space in the international community. At the end of the piece, the editor dropped the mother of all bombshells. Mainland China must prepare itself for a direct military clash in the Taiwan Straits. Well, Bill, we started this talking about Iraq. We talked about, and whether the public knows it or not, what made the Iraq situation so imperative to put a stop to was the fact that they were going to trade oil in other than dollars. Monday, allegedly, and again, who knows what's going to happen, but Monday allegedly is the contract rolling out. Are we going to go tit for tat from a trade war right into a hot war? And Bill, why don't you start?
It's tough to say. Do we go immediately into a hot war? Like we've been talking about, it looks like the powers that be in the U.S. do want a war. They want a war with Russia. And as we've talked about over the last weeks and months, a war is not winnable. I think it's certainly no coincidence whatsoever that leading up to the 26th, what happened 2 or 3 weeks ago? Russia announced they have hypersonic weapons, followed the week after that by China saying they have hypersonic weapons, and we've seen tests/demonstrations of these. So it's muscle flexing. It's, for lack of a better term, it's Russia and China saying, look, we're going to trade oil for yuan. Don't mess with us. And I think what you're seeing in all markets at this point, we've seen a reversal in interest rates, a reversal in U.S. Treasuries. We've seen a reversal in the stock markets. Now we're looking at gold again bumping up at this 1350, 1360 level to break out. It's like all markets have reversed from previous control and look to be ready to break in, if you want to call it, a negative direction from what would be good for America, or what, strong dollar, low interest rates, low gold. I just don't think that there's any coincidence whatsoever that this is happening leading up to the 26th. I also think it's interesting for people who follow COMEX and follow LBMA, the amount of gold so far, and we're not even 90 days into the year. So far from COMEX to London, there have been roughly 70 million ounces of gold moved via EFP, exchange for physical contracts. The world only produces 80 million ounces a year, collectively, the entire world. And in, 85 days or whatever, they've done 70 million ounces. It shows that COMEX does not have the gold to deliver, and I don't see any way that that London's going to do that. And as we've said all along, the end of the financial system, people want to know, what's going to turn gold, what's going to turn silver, and I've always said all along, it would be a failure to deliver. And it just looks like the amount standing demanding delivery is more than can be delivered. And I guess you can't even say strangely enough, but yes, strangely enough, believe it or not, if you saw the COT numbers this past week, I think in silver, this is the first time in I don't know how many years the commercials are actually flat or slightly long, like by a few hundred contracts. And Jim, that's, you've always said that the commercials would not be short when this thing broke. And
no,
they're short.
and covertly very long. Well, what I hear, though, and what I'd like to add to that, if I could, is we don't know if or not the 26th will actually be the initiation. But the initiation of that trading will take place. Now, China's history in the initiation of future trading is not necessarily outstanding. So if we wanted to have an event that would tell you that the plug is pulled, it would be the success of the Yuan energy marriage. So the 26th is an extraordinarily important date. And eventually it's going to happen. If it happens on the 26th, the plug is pulled. When it happens, the plug is pulled. But whether or not it actually occurs successfully in volume on the 26th, we have not a long time to see, but that will be that will generate a need for another of our conferences to try and understand what took place, what is taking place, and what the timing is of that event. Is it the 26th? Whenever it is, the fun begins. And I'm being sarcastic.
One other thing that China announced last week was that, along with the tariffs and trade wars, they did make mention of, we'll just not buy any treasuries. And we know they've already started paring back their treasuries. So, I mean, that's obviously, that's a huge shot across the bow. And who knows what the number is, but whatever amount of oil that China does import and pay for with yuan, that comes out of the demand, or the previous demand, where they were paying with dollars. So what's the slice of the global pie? Is it 2%, 5%, 15%, 20%? We don't know what the number is, but however they move, it will be a direct one-for-one effect on the amount of dollars, or the amount of dollar demand.
It's we've always agreed that if you had a strategy of an economic war, the strategy would be the death of the petrodollar. What are they going to invent? Where is the new reserve currency? Where is the new reserve item? I'm still convinced that it was just by good luck and good fortune that in the Nixon administration they came up with something to replace gold that actually worked in terms of dollar demand. Tell me what's going to make a dollar demand? An STR of some kind? You're kidding. So we're at a point of inflection surrounding, that can be best explained as you have, the drop-off of demand for the dollar that would occur if there's a successful commodity-type currency created out of a futures exchange. And I also think that you've got to take into consideration that owning gold, not necessarily converting gold, will be very much a determinant of a currency strength in the coming future. So how about a yuan with two commodities behind it, owning most of the gold in the world and running the world's gold markets, running the world's energy markets. So where would the petrodollar be? Dead and buried. What's going to replace the petrodollar? I have no idea. Neither does anybody else, and that means nothing. Okay, there is no replacement right now to give the dollar the strength it requires, and that's why the dollar market has started not to correlate as it used to with anything.
Jim, let me add to that because we've gotten questioned this very same question time after time. People writing in telling us, well, there's just no way that the yuan is going to be convertible to gold. And we agree. We do not.
It doesn't have to be.
Exactly. It will be de facto backed. In other words, they go out in their national stadium and say, here's our 20,000 or 30,000 tons of gold.
Yeah.
It's de facto backed. And
yes.
if they ever were to become convertible, I can guarantee you it will not be the hoard that China has now. It will only be gold that China goes out and purchases in the future and bids to the moon.
Bill, convertibility of anything results in one thing in currencies all the time and forever: the conversion.
Right.
So the whole thesis of convertibility is the giveaway. It's what you have, not what you're willing to give away, that will result in the strength of the currency. So if you have the gold and you do have energy trading in yuan, then the ultimate currency will be the yuan, without ever declaring itself a reserve anything. It will be, period. You know, there's not a whole group out there of wizards who bless a currency and say, thou art now a reserve currency. That doesn't happen. It happens because central banks buy this stuff because they like it. Okay? That's how you become a reserve currency. And you need not necessarily suffer from all of the ills of being a reserve currency unless you're power mad and want to control the world. I've just given you the way it happens and the medicine that stops the world from controlling you if you're a reserve currency.
And every reserve currency in the past has been power mad and did want to control the world, and it ended in end of empire.
How about
Spain, France, Britain,
yes.
the U.S., you name it.
Rome.
I don't want to control the United States. Screw the United States. I want to control the new world economy. Okay, I'm taking a left turn, not a right turn. With your currency that powerful, you own the Silk Road. Are we yesterday or are we tomorrow? What is tomorrow? Maybe it's not us.
David, your thoughts?
Well, this brings me to again, let's just move this through to, I like to take things to a logical conclusion. All right, Bill, you're an expert on above ground gold. What countries allegedly hold it, what countries claim they hold it and may not. Gold in the ground. Do we have any idea how much there is and where it is?
It's not coming out. The economics of gold, due to the politics of gold, due to the age of communication, it's all over. Colonialism dropped dead about 6 months ago. And all over the world, every country that produces gold is saying, yeah, you can come and mine our gold, but we're not taking 5% or 6%. We're going to cut it down the middle. The gold industry is in total disarray. And there will be very shortly no physical gold produced coming on the market compared to what has existed in the past. It's being shut off by the natural desire of an Indonesia or wherever to have the right to keep a fair share of what they own. Doesn't sound like stupid to me. I saw it coming 10 years ago, and not I wrote a book about it, but I wrote a contract based on it. Now, I don't know what good that is, but it is a fact. Physical gold supply is going to be strangled because the major mining companies will go down screaming, yelling, and fighting not to cooperate with the countries that wish to have a fair share of their own minerals. Physical gold is going into a case of total strangulation, and compared to the past, take a red pen and just take it off the table. It isn't happening. And believe me, I'm in the middle of this. I know exactly what I'm talking about.
In layman's terms, you just described peak gold.
They want to keep it. The major company says, screw you, it belongs to us. And that's exactly where the market stands at the moment. And it's everywhere, okay? It's in South America, okay? It's everywhere on the planet where a country is a supplier of any basic manufacturing or precious metals. Just got the idea, thank you very much, computers, that they got an absolute right, because they can read, and then they can read English too. And they see exactly what's going on with the major companies. Listen, they know Grand Cayman is where all the money from the major companies go. Okay, they know exactly why, and they want a piece of their own action. What the heck is wrong with that? And because it is seen as wrong by the fraternity of precious metal producers, you're looking at a war.
Yeah, and that's for all commodities.
All commodities, don't. And remember, Tanzania and China are the major producers of your strategic metals, without which our economy, this conversation, this computer on my lap, doesn't work. Everybody forgets that. That's power. Okay, you want power? China and Tanzania control the market, control the supply of all of your major strategic metals and materials. Together, they could shut the world down. And notice how friendly they are. And believe me, I'm in the middle of it. I know exactly what I'm talking about.
David.
Well, then that would bring us to the next logical conclusion. Why are we starting, right, before I even go there, when I looked this up, as of 2005, Russia had the largest in-ground reserves of gold. Now, whether that has changed a little or a lot is irrelevant. If this is the case, and we're all sitting here talking about the fact that the world needs gold because it's going to have to back these currencies that are, been printed into oblivion, why, unless we're going to kick the chess table over, would we choose this specific time to be in an economic war, a verbal war, and a proxy war with both Russia and China at the same time? It just seems, it doesn't make sense to pick a fight with the two other superpowers right now when our economy is, like Bill has pointed out, is not in a position to be able to absorb a blow like that. Are they going to flush the whole system?
You're talking logic, right? Egomania. You think that the dark side has got everything right?
I think it's being backed into the corner. I think if you go back to the 1990s, you can remember Robert Rubin talking about kicking the can down the road 6 more months. It doesn't matter how much it costs in 6 months as long as you get down 6 months down the road. I think we've done that for so long. We're now back into a corner in so many different avenues. And I think that's where we stand, is that we're back up against the wall, and there's no more 6 months to kick the can down the road.
That's the date that the war between light and darkness is initiated.
I think so.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's been predicted in many different ways, economically, philosophy, you name it. It's here. And remember this, physical gold in China and physical gold in Russia will continue to produce because it won't be exported. Take a red pen and put it through any calculation you might be making in the gold price or new physical above ground supply. And remember, appreciation of price does not create selling, it creates buying. Depreciation of price is exactly the opposite. It creates more selling than buying. So if the price of gold was to rise and you put a pen through new supply, where do you think it's going? It's not, you're not going to distort into the marketplace. No. Just like the crazy Bitcoin.
It goes
as long as they
hiding.
kept the price going up and they kept the momentum going up, nothing became something. Now, what will something become? Okay? Nothing became something. What will something become when its time takes place?
It'll go into hiding is what'll happen, James.
It will go into hiding. What's left? There's
Right.
nothing new coming on. China doesn't export. Russia will keep it all. Where's it coming from?
Yeah, and this coincides with a cash call where 499 people find out that the piece of paper that says they own an ounce of gold is not real and it never was, and there's only 1 ounce out of 500 that's real.
Yeah, that's real. And now add to that, if technical analysis still exists, it only can exist in the very long-term picture. Okay, we've skewed the short-term to where it's become a tool of major trading firms. Then go and take a look at the chart that was published on the cup and saucer multi-year on silver, and tell me what the heck is going on there that's going to make that thing into a rocket ship.
Yeah, that's a 35-year chart, Jim. That's huge.
It's huge. There has never been anything like that in the history of technical analysis. All right? You show me anything that perfectly consistent and symmetrical, okay, over a long period of time. The last time we had that was anything near it was the Swiss franc triangle with the resistance of 26.5 cents.
David.
Well, again, this brings us to one of my questions about, again, silver. Back, Jim, I sent you a note during the week about this, and I said, asked in a question that I already think I know the answer to. In 2011, gold was $1,900 an ounce. Silver was $50 an ounce. Wall Street is supposed to be the all-weighing machine. It knows everything all the time. It's millions of bits of information coming together and determining price. If that is the case, from 2011 till present, trillions and trillions and trillions have been spent. Trade wars are started. Proxy wars are going on. We're in full-blown wars. Yet gold is $13.50 and silver is $16 and change, and it's 81 to 1. The ratio has never been here. Is Wall Street corrupt, or did they never really price it correctly this time?
Well, they priced the gold and silver where they wanted it priced, beginning 2011, and then really piled on after the Obama Treasury Fed meeting in 2013. They've priced it with derivatives. They've priced it with paper. They're pricing. They're selling naked futures to create a false price, and only when gold and silver trade physically and without futures will we truly find out what the price is. And that price,
I agree so much.
That price is probably, pick a number, add a zero, add 2 zeros, who knows?
Well, silver looks like it's about to cure cancer and all other diseases, okay? You wonder what's going on there where is the nuclear fission that's going to knock that one straight up into the stratosphere? Oh, there it is.
Failure to deliver. That's the answer.
Anywhere, any future exchange, anywhere that fails to deliver will kill them all, okay?
Right, because then everyone will want delivery on everything.
Hodong Junction Futures Exchange just fails to deliver. COMEX blows up.
Well, Jim, you know what? Call it a bank run. I mean, 100 years ago, if you heard that a bank 100 miles away went under, what did you do? You went to your bank.
Down to your local bank and got it out.
Exactly.
Everywhere.
And that's really what we're talking about, is a bank run on commodities.
That's called hyperinflation, though, also, as well.
Oh, absolutely. Because it then exposes the currencies are a lie. And
business is laying flat on its back, and Mr. Dent is yelling, "Look, I'm right. Gold is at 50,000." Okay? I told you it was deflation. Oh, what's that all about? It is a currency situation, and gold is the heart of currencies. any fractional breakdown that's obvious takes the whole thing apart. And by the way, that's exactly what you're talking about now. If it ever comes into the consciousness that for every 500 supposed ounces, there only is one. The game hasn't played out too long. Too many things are going wild. All right?
David, did we have anything left on the list? Or which wraps it up?
The gas pipe.
No, there's nothing that, again, there's nothing that could be said right now that's going to have more of effect than what takes place next week as these trade wars and proxy wars, get played out. And it's like everybody wants to know, when's it going to go up? What day? How much? So I can count my profits. We're in a situation where there's so many events that could drastically affect what's going on that, the rest of the questions are moot. Let's just wait and see what happens beginning next week. We'll see how China responds. Let's see how markets respond to how China responds. And then probably pick it up from there, right?
If it isn't the 26th, David, then it's the 26th of another month. But the bottom line is it's coming. The petrodollar is dead. It's not coming back to life, okay? And we've lost the Middle East because we've screwed it up. Changing regimes is the biggest crock that ever was thought of in the history of man. So it's not if, it's simply when. So what do? What profit am I going to make? Am I going to sell at resistance? Am I going to throw my insurance policy into the garbage can? The answer is, I don't think you should. I really don't think you should.
Well, to be clear, we believe that there will be a spell where markets close. And when those markets close, upon reopening, you're going to find out exactly what you have.
Well,
that's called the reset.
Right. When a person has to make a bid, the machine isn't working. What's the bid going to be?
Well, everything is going to be revalued, and what will take the biggest hit will be fixed income, bonds, and currencies.
Pensionaire is the most endangered species on the face of the earth, not the penguins.
Well, guys, enjoyed it. I'll get this posted. You have a great weekend.
And somehow I don't think we're going to make it through the week without talking again.
Yeah, I think we're going to have another one. And, by making this public, you may have shortened our life, but do what you got to do.
Exactly. We joke about this, but this, this whole list thing and being rounded up, this isn't like hearsay. When you've got denial of service attacks coming on legitimate websites, like, New Eastern Outlook, it's not like they're a radical website. It's a bunch of intellectuals writing what they believe to be the truth. And I would say a bunch of intellectual hearers, but I don't consider myself an intellectual. I'm a moron, which is why I'm so good at this, because I can't be brainwashed by them. I'm too stupid. You guys are the smart ones. I just you undervalue yourself, and you are one of the most intelligent men I've ever met. Well, hopefully I'm wrong, because I'm concerned that we're all going to, we're all just going to end up in this giant war that just like at the just like at the beginning of World War II, it was all about the money. It was all about reparations. It was all about nationalism. It was all about make Germany great again, and we're going to come back. Wow, I sure hope we're not repeating that. But John Bolton sitting next to the man with his finger on the button is
shocking.
Shocking.
Yeah.
Everybody should go out tomorrow morning and put a bid in for every gold coin they could possibly afford and hide it someplace. Because if that occurs, all bets are off. We won't be doing much talking after that, will we?
No, we won't. We won't, because we won't be able to, because the facilities for communication will be down.
Yes, that would absolutely, which is what you're already seeing take place. I've sent you a post on this, Bill, about urgent alert that the SACR put out, that they're going to close down all these websites. It's already occurring. And Unfortunately, I'm sure we're going to eventually fall into that category. So,
how are we going to miss?
We're not going to miss.
No,
Bill, Jim, you guys are great. Have a great weekend, and let's do this again soon.
I promise not to sleep and have to take a hot shower before we start again.
All right.
Have a good
I hate
weekend,
to be such a wet rag.
See you guys.